So today we're talking about 5 current things that if you want to move to Chesapeake, Virginia, you need to know these things before you move so that when you come here, you're not surprised and wishing maybe you had decided to pick somewhere else to move. So I'm talking to a lot of people about moving to Chesapeake, and it's happening a lot. Chesapeake is a popular spot to move to, and I've noticed that when people want to move to Chesapeake, they decide based on a lot of things that they're told or they think are still the case in Chesapeake, but Chesapeake is changing a bit, but I want to talk about that and talk about 5 things that I really do think that people need to be aware of before they move here. Some of it's good, some of it's not good. I think using that balance is going to be helpful for you to make the right decisions. But I think the first thing to keep in mind when looking at Chesapeake is that Greenbrier is the gateway to Virginia Beach and Norfolk. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to show you on the map what I'm talking about as far as locations go. So you see Chesapeake, the big Chesapeake area. Well, there's Greenbrier looks like on the eastern side of Chesapeake, but it's kind of like the most populated part of Chesapeake and kind of the most popular as well. If you look right here, Greenbrier East, Greenbrier West, this whole section here, and then if you look down almost right in the center north of it, there's Greenbrier Mall, this whole area in Greenbrier. Greenbrier is like the central focal point where people come to shop, commute from different parts of town. It's like one of the most convenient big box store locations, restaurants, all that stuff is in Greenbrier. Greenbrier is a place where people can come from like the south part of Chesapeake, even like the western Deep Creek parts of Chesapeake, and to get to stuff and shop and eat in Greenbrier. There are other places you can go to in Chesapeake, but this is like one of the main spots. But what do I mean when I say it's the gateway? Well, there's a perception of how Chesapeake is, how Virginia Beach is, how Norfolk is. Chesapeake is always kind of seen as like a rural part of town or more of a country city. It is that to a certain degree because it has a lot of land that is country, a lot. But also it has a lot of suburban parts of town. But it still feels different than what you might compare Virginia Beach to, or especially Norfolk. Norfolk has more of a city feel. If you notice, if you look on Greenbrier, there is Interstate 64 that is connecting from Virginia Beach through Chesapeake, and also 464. They're both connected on different sides of Greenbrier. And so the reason I say this is the gateway is because you can take 464 from Greenbrier up into Norfolk in about 15 minutes. You can also take that same area, that interchange, and go through 64 away from Greenbrier up to Virginia Beach in about 10 minutes, 12 minutes or so. And so I think to me, and I think a lot of locals might agree with me here, is that when you're thinking about Greenbrier, you think Chesapeake, but you also kind of think Virginia Beach too, because it's so close. It blends right into Virginia Beach. And so you can get there pretty quickly from Greenbrier. But people that live further south in Chesapeake or further even west often can associate themselves with, well, I can go to Greenbrier to get a lot of my shopping done. It's close to me, right? But I often don't think that Virginia Beach is close to them, but they think often that Greenbrier is. So it's kind of a weird thing where people think that, okay, Greenbrier is close to me if I live in Chesapeake, but Virginia Beach is far. But if you live in Virginia Beach, you also think that, Greenbrier is right down the road. I'll go to Greenbrier. It's super close. So it's kind of the bridge between where people think Virginia Beach is compared to where Chesapeake is, if that makes sense. And the same goes with Norfolk. Norfolk, you can hop, skip, and a jump. From Greenbrier, you can take that up to Norfolk as well. So if you live around Greenbrier or near that section of Greenbrier, you're not that far away from the rest of the south side and the rest of all the activities you can do and businesses and work you can get to in other cities if you live around Greenbrier or 5-10 minutes away from there. So that's a place to keep in mind. If you're 5, 10, 15 minutes away from Greenbrier, you're not that far away from the rest of the south side, Norfolk or Virginia Beach either. So that leads me to the next thing, which is, speaking of Greenbrier, that Chesapeake is trying to do a quasi rebrand. What do I mean by that? Well, Greenbrier is a very central part of Chesapeake and of a lot of parts of Hampton Roads, but it's been that way for a long time. And because of that, what's there, the construction, the things to do, the restaurants, the shops, they're kind of dated as well. Like there's some new stuff coming in and out, but a lot of the staples of the area have been there for a long time. The buildings are the same. Greenbrier Mall is still it's an older mall that, malls aren't popular anymore, but that one's still there. It's a big part of what Greenbrier is. Well, the city is now talking about what to do about Greenbrier, how to change it to make it more, popular, more appealing to people in the current times. Starting with that, there's a place called Summit Point, which has been recently built. It's like a more modern town center vibe that is I guess you'd say just next to Greenbrier, but it's super convenient. Restaurants are popping up in there, shops, places to live, and near other residential neighborhoods. Makes it super convenient to go to, but also very close to Greenbrier. So when you see the modernness of Summit Point, combining it with the datedness of the more populated Greenbrier, I think you'll start seeing things in Greenbrier start to change as well to mimic all this newness coming to Chesapeake. And I think it's going to really revitalize the area as well. So I'm encouraged by what Chesapeake is doing. Chesapeake is even encouraging locals, residents, to come and talk. They've had talks recently to talk about what is happening in Chesapeake and what to do in Greenbrier. And so I think this is going to become what it will be even a bigger and more appealing change to Greenbrier that will help revitalize what is still the most populated or most popular shopping area and restaurant and communal area in Chesapeake, but I think it's going to make it even better. So I'm encouraged by what the city is focusing on and what I think could happen in Greenbrier moving forward. So that leads me to the next one, which is that Chesapeake is not all the same. And so I do think that there has also been a brand of Chesapeake that is a rural part of town, a country town. But if you look on the map, I'm going to show you how large Chesapeake is and how different parts of Chesapeake are. So you see here, it's a big city, and I've talked about Greenbrier. There's South Chesapeake, all this green down here. It's a lot of country and more rural, right? But as you get closer to the central part, so South Norfolk feels totally different than Greenbrier or the rest of the South Chesapeake part of town. Deep Creek has kind of a more industrial combination with that country vibe. As you go further west from there, Western Branch feels a bit like Greenbrier and parts of South Chesapeake, a little bit different compared to the rest of Chesapeake. It also blends in with Portsmouth. You don't even know that you drive from Portsmouth to Chesapeake in some parts of that side of town. So there are different personalities to Chesapeake depending on where you are in Chesapeake. So when you're looking for houses, looking for places to move to, you see like you're moving and you see a business you might want to work at. Find out, make sure you look at the address of where you're looking, house, business, whatever. Make sure to know that wherever you're looking, it might not feel the same as what you may have been told Chesapeake is, because Chesapeake is a lot of different things based on where you're living in the city. So if you're planning on researching and coming in here in town to live, and you're focusing on Chesapeake for any reason, make sure you spend time enough to go to different parts. South Chesapeake for at least a day, Greenbrier for part of that. Also Deep Creek, South Norfolk, and Western Branch. I think that you'll find that based on what you're looking for, you might get it in different parts of that, but you might not get what you're looking for in all of the parts of Chesapeake. The next one is going to be jet noise. And you've heard me talk about, if you've watched a lot of my videos talking about jet noise in Virginia Beach, that's where usually people think about jet noise. But right now, you got to know that Chesapeake also has it too. And so if you look on the map, you'll see that, of course, you got the Oceana Naval Air Station, which is the majority of what you'll find with jet noise comes from there. But you've also got Fentress. The Fentress airfield is right here. You see Fentress, you'll see around there, you'll see those spots that have the most propensity for noise. And again, there's a lot of neighborhoods in those zones that could play a factor if you're planning to move to Chesapeake. Just because you're in Chesapeake does not mean you're going to avoid jet noise. And so check the ACU's noise zone map. And before you go after the house that you want, check to make sure if the jet noise bothers you, I would just to make sure that the zone is where you're comfortable. And again, if it leads to having to come here before you just make a decision to make sure it's where you want to be, and if there's a jet noise issue, just check it just to make sure. It wouldn't be a bad idea. So the next one's going to be watch for tolls. Tolls are becoming a bigger and bigger part of what Chesapeake is because, again, it's a big city. But as the growth happens, there's been widening of roads, new roads, extensions, reconstruction that has led to more tolls. So main thing to keep in mind is that there are a few that can really affect where you might want to live, because if you don't know that they exist, you might think, well, I can just go from the south part and go to the north part of the Norfolk, and it's going to be 15 minutes. Well, if you pay an extra couple bucks, maybe. The first one's going to be the Dominion toll that's on Route 17. That is, it's a Veterans Bridge. You see it right there. That is a sneaky toll because it's super convenient. If you're on this side of town, like near Cedar Road, all through these south and kind of near Deep Creek, you'll want to take this to get up into the Norfolk part of town, Virginia Beach, even Portsmouth sometimes. And you still can. It's very convenient, but there's a toll. And so you won't know until you get on it. And it's like, gosh, if I move to the area that's close to the toll, and I did not want to pay, you might find yourself having to drive a lot further to get to where you want to be on a regular basis and maybe wishing you hadn't moved there. Separate from that, there's a new one that's up on the high rise that is an express lane. This high-rise bridge has been the reason for so much traffic in Chesapeake over many, many years, because as growth has come on, this has become a problem point for traffic. Well, they've redone the bridge, but with that, they've increased lanes and made express lanes. So you can use those and pay tolls to use those lanes, which you don't have to in this case, but it can help. That's another one. Another one's going to be in the Bowers Hill area near 664. There's going to be they're talking about adding and doing some construction to this part of the interstate near 664 that will possibly also add some express lanes as well to help with traffic up and around 664, which is also not as big of a problem as other parts of Chesapeake to me, but still a problem, especially as you get around this interchange. It can be a big annoyance, especially as you go even going towards the high-rise bridge. Another one is the Jordan Bridge, which goes from South Norfolk over into Portsmouth. Another surprise if the GPS takes you on this one. This one's expensive, so make sure that if you find yourself cutting across a body of water to this part of town, like right in the center part here, just make sure it's not the Jordan Bridge, because if it is, you might be paying a lot of money to go across one way. So that's another one to focus on. Now, if you want to pivot away from these tolls, you can go on the eastern side or further away from this part of town, but there are some places that also have bridges that lift. So just be aware that you might save money, but you might also lose some time, which is across the Great Bridge around Battlefield Boulevard right here, and also on the Centerville Turnpike. This bridge here, these both open. They're drawbridges, and because they go over the Intercoastal Waterway, and so they'll have to rise on a regular basis to let boats through, and so that can be annoying. They'll save you money, but it might be annoying to get up into the northern parts of town. So just keep that in mind as you're trying to avoid tolls. You might go into other parts that require more time investment, but might save you some money. The other place that could save you all those things is to go up the Chesapeake Bypass 168. It's just, again, there'll just be more traffic, but it might save you still some time with the bridge, and also definitely save you some money not having to go through those tolls. So if you have any more questions about relocating to Chesapeake or the areas around Chesapeake through Williamsburg, let me know. That's what I do. I'm a real estate agent in Hampton Roads, and I love helping people relocate to the area. So if you have any questions, need help, reach out, comment, send me a text, call me, email me, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.